So today we're going to talk about why we need direct, explicit instruction in the area of decoding. So if you see here, based on the ladder of reading, a very small amount of students, about 40%, will be able to read just with general instruction. The majority of students are going to fall into the category where they need specific instruction in the area of decoding. Right now, all those students are receiving AIS services. So let's break this down a little bit further. So, the simple view of reading. In order to gain reading comprehension, I just need decoding times language comprehension. Decoding includes phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and decoding, automatic recognition of common words, ability to read common phonetically irregular words through a process called orthographic mapping. The brain is not wired to read, it has to be specifically taught, and the majority of students lack the code necessary and really need that systematic diagnostic teaching and instruction. So, language comprehension. This is actually where most of our instruction takes place with the resources, materials, and training that we've received. You'll see more of that in a bit. So, this is your vocabulary, background knowledge, syntax, and figurative language. Put this all together. Ta-da! You gain reading comprehension. We are teaching the sounds and relationships like phonemic awareness. Here's the letter M. What does it say? We're teaching phonics rules, and we're teaching sight words, mostly through memorization, which is not the same and is not orthographic mapping. There isn't any direct instruction teaching application specifically on decoding skills. There's no resources that we have telling teachers how to teach. We're going to look at this as an example. So we're going to see, I'm going to lay out for you a real life example that I saw in a real second grade classroom in the month of February. So here we have grade 2. We have our standards for phonics and word recognition. So know and apply phonics and word analysis skills in decoding words. So the teacher presented the student with the word gym. They were learning about the different sounds of G. So my student didn't know how to read the word gym. Okay, well, I can look here on the Engage New York website. So it's not going to be in any of these domains. I guess I'll have to look on the skills strand. I click on skills strand. Okay, I guess I have to click on K through 2 skills, scope, and sequence. So I open up that document and I scroll all the way from kindergarten, all the way from first grade, all the way through second grade. So now I come down here. Oh, my student will learn that phonics pattern in lesson 14. Great. So now I go back to the website and I have to find where that's taught. Okay, so now I'm here and I see my grade 2 skills unit 1 workbook, and sure enough, I go down to lesson 14. Okay, so there's G. I guess G makes a sound for G. And it also makes a sound for J sometimes. Okay, so there's some examples. So I have to teach myself when G says G and when G says J. If I'm a teacher, this does not help me or doesn't help my student with learning how to read the actual word. So right now, this is just phonics. This is the rule. It's taught. Sometimes G says G, sometimes G says J. So does the student know how and when to use this rule? Does this teach the student that the letter string GYM says Jim? How will the teacher teach the student to apply it? Well, so I've just looked on Engage New York. There's no resources there. So now I'm going to go back to my training. What was I trained in? The 3 cueing system. So for this case, I either can use, does it make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? Okay, well, I guess it looks right. And I don't know what these letters are saying, so I have no idea if it sounds right. So if I'm a teacher, what am I going to do here? I'm going to teach it using meaning. This is the place where you go with Mr. E. So now the student says Jim. But guess what? They did not read it. They did not decode it. They did not apply the sound symbol relationship to read that word. They used language comprehension because the 3 cueing system is meant to prop students to promote language comprehension. So now this is the place where you go with Mr. E. They understand spoken words. They understand that when I go with Mr. E, I go to the gym. But guess what? The student does not know how to read that word still. So the iReady book, which is my next resource to go to. So I looked on Engage New York. They didn't provide me the information or the lesson to teach that decoding skill. I used my training, the 3 cueing system, but the student still doesn't know how to read the letter string GYM. So now the iReady book only has strands RI, RF, and RL. So they only have strands for information, fiction, and language. The 3 cueing system, which I just tried, doesn't provide any instruction for the application of sound symbol relationships, so there's no decoding instruction there. And going back to the iReady book, I'll show you when they say language, they only mean things like past tense, irregular verbs, grammar. Again, not teaching me how to look at a word and how to read that word using the letters in front of me. So Engage New York only shows the rule, not when to use it or how to apply it, so also no decoding instruction. So now I guess I'm going to look on the Ready website because I've looked at everything that I have. I've looked on Engage New York. I've looked in the Ready book. The only training I've had is in guided reading and the 3 cueing system. So now I'm going to go to the iReady website. Okay, let's see. Here's phonics for grade 2. Guess what? There's nothing on the Ready website to teach this skill to my 2nd grader, even though it is a standard. The amount of resources is limited. And as you see, there's nothing here addressing that specific skill. So I even tried clicking on inconsistent sound and spelling correspondence, and it was just various VC patterns, which does not help me read the letter string GYM. I couldn't even assign this as an extra lesson if I wanted to. So right now, as a teacher, let's take a look at this. I have limited phonics resources that don't teach application. There's no resource for decoding or decoding instruction available to me, as we just saw. The only training I received was in guided reading in the 3 cueing system, and that was years ago. Engage New York just shows me the phonics rule, not how to teach it or how to help my struggling learners understand it. There's no other resources available to me. So now I look on Teachers Pay Teachers, Super Teacher Worksheets, maybe Google. Meanwhile, the student has not stored the code for the word gym. They know that that's the place they go with Mr. E, but next time they see that word, they still won't be able to read it. They have not applied the rules of phonics to decoding letter symbols. This goes back to the ladder of reading. So all our instruction is geared to these students. Because guess what? I can show them that workbook from Engage New York, and I can show them that sheet, and they'll be able to grab that broad instruction because their brains are aligned and their brains are set up, and they're going to be able to grasp that, and they're going to be able to, that's going to be enough to store that orthographic pattern and to make those connections when they see those words later on. What about my other percentage of students? What about them? So the ladder of reading. Right now, all our instruction, all our material, all our resources are geared to that small percentage of students. And if you look at our iReady data, that's how students came into us. Our teaching, so student data reflects the instruction they have received. And the data is a reflection that it's time to shift our instructional practices. Right now, we are only providing resources and providing instruction for a small percentage of students that probably would pick this up on their own without us. Every student in AIS is receiving instruction in decoding because that is what they cannot do without that direct, systematic instruction. Let's take a look now if we were teaching, if teachers had other resources and other programs available to them. So this would be an example of a structured literacy lesson. So now the G train. So if I want to read that word gym, I can teach them an orthographic pattern. I can teach them that code. So I can teach them that most of the time, that sometimes the letter G borrows the sound from the letter J. Now I've taught that. I have taught them phonemic awareness. I've taught them that G says G, and I've taught them that G says J. So I'm already connecting with something that they've learned. So now I'm giving them a visual resource. I'm imprinting this in their mind. So most of the time, the G train is just chugging along, making the sound when it is followed by the letters A, O, or U. It could even be followed by a consonant. So now I'm providing a rule. Every now and then, my G train has to stop. When my train has to stop to pick up a passenger, E, I, or Y, it is going to borrow the sound of J. So now I've taught my student that if they see a letter E, if they see a letter I, or if they see a letter Y, right after the G is going to make the sound J. So now I have taught them that. Guess what? Now they can apply it to any word that follows this pattern. They can apply it to the word gem. They can apply it to the word giraffe. They can apply it to the word general, not just the word gym. I have taught them a pattern. I have taught them how to orthographically map this concept. It is now stored in their brain. It is now ready for retrieval. That is decoding instruction. And that is what is lacking in our current curriculums. Therefore, we need resources and programs. Teachers need proper materials and the training to use that materials. I know right now the focus is on we just need strong people. Guess what? The teacher who taught that student using language comprehension, where does Mr. E take you to read the word gym, is a strong teacher. She's a fantastic teacher. She's been teaching for many years and she gets fabulous results. But she does not have the resources, the training, and the materials necessary to teach decoding to her students. So yes, having strong people helps, but you need strong people who have the right training and who have the proper materials.